Hi everybody, this is Mr. Zoeller, and today I'm going to be presenting to you our final video in our westward expansion series on the Mexican-American War and the Gadsden Purchase. Our central question we'll be discussing in class was how justifiable was the United States expansion in the 1800s, and we'll be talking about the Mexican-American War and the Gadsden Purchase in regards to this. So with war with Mexico, so the idea of more territory. So President James Polk here, when he was running for president, was a firm believer in manifest destiny that the United States should acquire and have more land, and he was determined to have today California and New Mexico. So after Texas was annexed into the United States and added as a part of the United States, Mexico is going to view that as an act of declaration of war, and the United States and Mexico had different borders that they were using for between our two countries. So the people of Texas that are now in the United States claim Rio Grande as their border, while for Mexico the border was the Nueces River. And so in the end we're going to have a border skirmish between the United States and Mexico, where we're going to have 16 Americans that are shot and killed by Mexican soldiers, and that's going to be just the excuse that President Polk needs to have war declared on Mexico. And so the U.S. Congress is going to declare war on Mexico 2 days later, and so we'll begin the Mexican-American War. So the first goal of the Mexican-American War was the United States wanting to claim New Mexico and California, and so General Kearny is going to take control of New Mexico, sending in the troops there, and he met no resistance at all and was able to take New Mexico without firing a shot. And then John C. Fremont, who was a famous explorer, is going to launch a rebellion against Mexican rule in California, and they're going to go and arrest one of the retired generals in Northern California around San Francisco, and later they're going to declare California as the Bear Flag Republic, and to this day, this is still the flag that is for the state of California. And so Kearny is going to join Fremont and put all of California under American control, and eventually the Americans are going to take over Monterey Bay, that area in California, and that's where the former capital of Mexico was, for California. Further down south in Mexico, of course, the goal is to capture Mexico City. So the United States is going to be invading Mexico from Texas from the north, and also going to be landing troops and attacking Mexico City from the sea and heading west, and which is what this map is showing down here of General Scott. And so we're going to have, as Americans are heading south from Texas, we're going to have 6,000 troops that took over the city of Monterey, and they were confronted by General Santa Anna, who was a leader, remember, back in the Texas War for Independence, with his 20,000 troops. And so General Santa Anna in that battle is going to decide to retreat so he doesn't lose too many of his men. And then in 1847, we're going to have a battle here at Buena Vista, and then Santa Anna is going to be retreating south even more after that. And so when American forces land over here in the south, in the southern part of Mexico, heading west to Mexico City, they will meet resistance along different paths along their way. So you can see where the battle sites are located here. And then finally in 1847, the United States is going to capture Mexico City, and that's going to bring an end to the war between Mexico and the United States. So at the end of the Mexican-American War, we're going to have the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo that's signed between the United States and Mexico. And so this was in 1848. And so the United States is going to gain this area of land that used to belong to Mexico, which we call the Mexican cession. A cession is land that's given up, or land that's ceded or given to another country. And so today you can see that would be California, Nevada, Utah, Arizona, and then parts of New Mexico, Colorado, and Wyoming. And then Mexico would retain the land south of that. In return, the United States promised to pay for that land. So the United States paid $15 million to Mexico, and they also promised to protect all of the Mexican citizens living in this area, which they didn't quite end up doing. Now, this treaty was very controversial. There are many senators in the U.S. Senate that believe that the only part of the treaty should have been that the border dispute between Texas with the Rio Grande and the Nueces River, that should have been solved, that Texas, the whole land should have been annexed or ceded to the United States, while the rest of this land should have belonged to Mexico, while there were other senators saying, hey, we have a chance to grab this land, let's take this territory. So it was very controversial. There were many Americans that saw this as we're acting very greedy in regards to manifest destiny in taking this land when the dispute was just over what was happening here in Texas. And then the final part I want to go over is the Gadsden Purchase with you. So James Gadsden is going to acquire, purchasing a piece of land from Mexico in 1853 for $10 million. And this is going to be our final piece of the puzzle that connects the United States from East Coast to West Coast today, what we call the contiguous states, or the 48 states of the United States, not counting Alaska and not counting Hawaii. And so the United States and James Gadsden would like to purchase this land in the southern part of today Arizona and New Mexico because it was a relatively flat route area, and that was where a good route for the Transcontinental Railroad could go, so that Americans could travel from East Coast to West Coast very, very quickly. So remember all the way back to the very first painting we looked at in the very first video on Manifest Destiny, that railroads going to be becoming a part of this whole westward expansion in the future. And then finally you can see here the land acquired by the Treaty of Guadalupe, Hidalgo between the United States and Mexico, where the United States is going to pay Mexico $15 million for this land and promise to protect the Mexicans living there. And then later in 1853 we'll have the Gadsden Purchase, where this strip of land will be purchased for $10 million from Mexico, and the reason for that was to have the railroad go through that since it was relatively flat. Once again, at the end of this video, you can check out the links to the other videos in the Westward Expansion series. And this is Mr. Zoeller, signing out. Have a good day.